Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and I want to talk to you today about exercise. I know many of you are frustrated because you exercise really hard and you don't see the benefits. Research shows that when folks exercise regularly, moderate to vigorous exercise, they only lose about 2 to 4 pounds. You go for a 3-mile jog, you burn 300 calories. That's the amount of a bowl of soup and a small salad. It's not a lot of calories when you're trying to lose weight. So why is it that that extra weight around your belly is so hard to burn off with exercise? Well, one reason is because exercise is perceived by the body as a stress. Under stress, it produces cortisol, a stress-fighting hormone, and insulin, an energy-driving hormone, to give you the energy to get up a tree and save your life. But any excess energy that was delivered gets quickly stored as fat, and it loves to store it around your belly. As a matter of fact, the fat around your belly is about 4 times as sensitive to insulin and cortisol as the subcutaneous fat, say, on your arm. So it's very important for us to realize that when you're under stress and producing excess cortisol and insulin, you're probably going to store more fat. And what's worse is after the exercise, the brain goes, uh-oh, we better refuel. So more cortisol is stimulated, more insulin is stimulated to tell the body to take anything it can find and store it again around your belly as fat. It even triggers a hormone called, or inhibits a hormone called leptin, which is the appetite hormone that basically tells you that you're full. But when this is inhibited, you never get that message. That stress triggers a hormone called ghrelin, which says, I'm hungry. So now we have this post-exercise hunger where we start craving comfort foods and oftentimes eat way more than the 300 calories we burned in our 3-mile jog. It's the problem. So how do we solve this problem? Well, one way, Ayurvedically, and I wrote about this years ago in my book, Body, Mind, and Sport, is to learn how to exercise without the stress, to actually breathe in a way that tells your nervous system the war is over. Now, how you do that is by breathing through your nose. If you saw a bear in the woods, you'd probably take a gasping breath, and that would trigger upper chest breathing, upper chest receptors where the stress fight or flight receptors are located or predominantly located. And when you breathe through your nose, taking a deep breath in through your nose, the air goes all the way down more efficiently into the lower lobes of your lungs where there's a more predominance of parasympathetic, repair, calm, rejuvenating receptors. So one way to help the body not respond to exercise as a upper chest, life-threatening, fat-storing emergency is to learn how to be a good nose breather. And in the article associated with this video, I give you all kinds of really cool little exercises to learn how to do that. One of them is to go for a walk and count how many steps you take for one inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps for the inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps as I exhale. And then as you're walking, try to go up to 5 steps during the inhale and 5 steps during your long exhale. And keep working on that until you can get a whopping 20 steps on your inhale and 20 steps on your exhale. Start to extend the breath deeply and through the nose. We also teach in a lot of the articles that I've written in my three-season diet book, my Body, Mind, Sport book, we talk about how to use what I call Darth Vader breathing during the exhale, which is a Ujjayi breathing technique where you make a little constriction in the back of the throat and you make this kind of snoring sound like this. When you do that, if you were to do that right now, take a breath in and then take a breath out. When you make that sound, you'll feel your tummy engage. And that stomach contracts onto the diaphragm, which contracts onto the heart. And it's called an abdominal diaphragmatic cardiac massage. And it literally triggers a nerve in your heart called the vagus nerve and slips your brain into a alpha state or a relaxation state in your brain. Makes you more calm. So the body's going, hey, I'm running really fast, but I'm breathing really deep, and you know what? I'm not feeling the stress. And that's what we want to do, is begin to create efficiency while you exercise so the body's not responding to the exercise as a cortisol boosting, insulin boosting, leptin inhibiting, ghrelin producing, fat storing, sugar burning emergency. And that's exactly what exercise does, which is why many times after the workout, we go and eat way more calories than we burn and simply can't get to that fat in those unwanted places. So please check out the article in this video associated with this video where I go into the detail of how to engage in some of these very cool, simple exercises about how to learn how to be a nose breather. And even if you already know how to be a nose breather, some really cool techniques of how to become a much better and more efficient nose breather. And the folks who know my Body, Mind, Sport book and my nasal breathing techniques, and a lot of you may have some trouble, and I get emails all the time about this. It's all about the efficiency of that breath. So the more we can get tips and learn how to be a better nose breather, the better we're going to use that nasal breathing into moderate to vigorous and even competitive exercise. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and I want to talk to you today about how to run like a child. Recently I was taking some pictures of different running styles, and I had my daughter. She wanted to be in the picture, so we took some pictures of her, and amazingly, her form was just perfect. Now, there are many natural running techniques available today: chi running, pose running, evolution running, many of them all incredible, all very important to understand and to learn about. And I plan on doing an ebook very soon about all of these different techniques. But what is interesting is that there's one technique that seems to be missing in all of the media and hoopla about natural running. And there's a Native American technique called fox running. This was probably first introduced by a man named Tom Brown, best-selling author of books like Grandfather, the Tracker. And in his field guide, in his tracking field guide, he talks about fox running, a technique that Native Americans used to stalk wild animals. And they studied fox and other animals and watched their stalking technique and how they placed their foot. The biomechanics of the foot placement seems to be missing in many of these techniques. So I want to share with you today some of these amazing techniques called fox running, the actual placement of the foot. And then at the end of this video, I'll show you some of the pictures of my daughter and how beautifully she placed her foot, and her foot placement was just perfect, as most children are until we learn how to do it incorrectly. And we've been taught how to do it without even realizing it with a shoe, something like this. The heel pad, about 1.5 inches worth, will force us to run in a heel-toe kind of a style, crashing our heel down and then letting our foot place. And what this does is it forces a lot of impact that goes right up into your leg, into your knee, and into your lower back, and causes pain. It also kind of deconditions the muscles in the front of your leg, your shin muscles, if you will, to become really strong. And it's very important that those muscles are strong. Those are our climbing rock muscles and having great agility and dexterity with our toes, which we typically don't have any longer. I'm going to go into this in great detail in my ebook. But I remember once I was in India, we were doing some medical camps in India, and as you go into these very remote villages in the mountains, the whole village comes to greet you. And this was on the side of a mountain, and these kids were on the top of this mountain, and they saw us coming, and they started charging down this mountain, which was just full of loose rock and shale. And as they came charging down this mountain, the whole mountain was moving. And when they came down, I looked at their feet, and they were in bare feet. And it was just phenomenal for me to see them running on this sharp rock in bare feet, perfectly looking feet, toes splayed, strong feet, legs glistening, really incredible. And this is something that we've all heard about, barefoot running, something that was brought out to us many years ago. This shoe right here called the Vibrant Five Fingers, a phenomenal piece of footwear that forces you to run correctly. In fact, one of the best ways to even rehab from injuries is to get on a grassy field and just jog or run slowly or even walk barefoot. Forces you to actually walk and run correctly. And use the muscles in the front of your leg that actually support your arch and actually keep the muscles in your back of your leg, your calf muscles, from getting so strong that they actually affect the center of gravity and ultimately how you carry your low back, and of course how you run. In either, it's like if you're building bricks. If they're built properly, it's a solid structure. But if you actually have bricks that are being built where one of the bricks are, let's say the muscles are stronger in the back, it's going to create a torsional strain in how you actually hold yourself up. The most important postural muscle in your body is your calf muscle. Well, that muscle is completely dependent on the muscles in the front of your leg. And those muscles are dependent on how you actually use your foot when you actually run. So fox running technique is very simple. It's actually not just run barefoot, which forces you to do it mostly correctly because you're going to run in the midfoot. You're not going to slam your heel down. You're going to run somewhere in the midfoot of you're not going to come either flat foot or a heel strike and then come down. So it's going to force you to run a little bit more on your toes. Now, fox running is a little bit more specific, where here you come down on the outside of your foot, the fifth metatarsal, roll over onto the ball of your foot, and then let your heel down into a three-point landing, and then you rise up into the next step. So you come down on the outside of your foot, roll over into the ball of the foot, let your heel down, that's your three-point landing, and then you're off into the next step. So it's outside, roll, down. Outside, roll, down, heel strike for the three-point landing, and then off you go. So that's how you do fox running. Now, when you do that, first practice that walking in your living room. Very carefully, touch, roll onto the ball of your foot, drop your heel down, and then step again. Touch on the outside of your foot, roll to the ball of your foot, and then on the heel of your foot for the three-point landing, and then come again. When you begin to run this way, you want to start with your feet a little bit less than shoulder width, making sure your feet are pointing in the direction that you're running, not flared out like this, and make sure that you're running in this direction. That's important. The ultimate in fox running is that your feet will start to come together. So as you begin to run, your feet will eventually be on one exactly in front of the other. If you're running on sand and you turn around, or loose dirt, turn around, look at your footprints. Check your foot placement. Sometimes you'll see a foot flare, one foot out, the other foot out. You'll see that you're tracking wide, or eventually you'll begin to naturally run this way. And that's what you'll see when you see the picture of my daughter at the end of this video, and also in the newsletter article associated with this video. Other shoes that are available, the 5 Fingers is a great shoe, phenomenal for running in dirt. Sometimes when there's rocks and pebbles and stones, you can feel them. So sometimes you want something a little bit sturdier. New Balance makes a shoe something like this. It's a minimalist shoe, so it's a shoe that's going to force you to run on your toes, not let you heel strike. So it's going to force you to run correctly. However, the more shoe you get around you, the more we tend to slip back into the old technique. So as you get into the minimalist shoes, there's many levels of them, and you can find yourself slipping back into the heel strike technique, and makes it more difficult to become a good fox runner, where you come on the outside, roll to the ball, heel strike down into a three-point landing, and then off you go. Striking the outside of the foot, roll to the ball of the foot, let your foot down for the heel strike for the three-point landing, and then off you go. So that is a little introduction into fox running. Naturally, you're going to wide track when you first do it. As you get better, you'll begin to see your feet land in the three-point landing, come on the outside of your foot, drop the ball, drop the heel, three-point landing, and off you go. Please add this to your chi running, add this to your evolution or pose running. Look into, I'm a big believer, One of the other things other books don't talk about is how to breathe. I wrote a book called Body, Mind, and Sport, all about nasal breathing techniques and how critically important it is to know how to breathe correctly while you exercise and while you run. Tie all that together and you begin to have a pretty phenomenal way to enjoy running, maybe for the first time ever. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and I'd like to talk to you today about the relationship between exercise and balancing your blood sugar. The big question is how much exercise is actually good for us and how much more is harmful. And in the article associated with this DVD, I tell a story about when 1981, when I was training for an Ironman triathlon, I went to my first Ayurvedic lecture and I asked the doctor afterwards if exercising this much, exercising for a 2.5-mile swim and a 112-mile bike ride and a 26-mile run was actually good for you according to this system. He looked at me and he said, "Why do you want to do such a thing?" And I really didn't have an answer for him, but I said, "Well, I'm not really sure. I think maybe I can do this thing." And he looked at me and he said, "Do you meditate?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do meditate." And he says, "Do you sleep while you meditate?" And I said, "Absolutely. I get the best sleep ever. And I love when I just fall asleep during meditation." He looked at me like I was kind of like ignorant and said, "When you meditate, it's different than when you sleep. If you're sleeping during your meditation, you're exhausted, you're doing way too much, so stop exercising so hard." So I said, "Does that mean that if I exercise, if I can meditate and not fall asleep, that means that I'm not exercising too much and I'm not exhausted?" And he said, "Yes, you can do that." So I went off thinking if I could exercise less, meditate more, not fall asleep during my exercise, I could actually do all this exercise, kind of be invincible was my goal back then, without killing myself, without it being harmful to me in the long run. Well, fast forward 30 years from then, I just finished my first triathlon in 26 years with my 3 kids, my 20, my 18-year-old, my 14-year-old, and using the techniques that I learned back then, I was able to place first in my age group. Now, what I learned back then to exercise less was I shortened my workouts from an hour or hours to 15 minutes. I would do sprints as I would commute on my bicycle for 15 minutes. I would do 10, 15-minute runs real fast, burst and then rest, and burst and then rest. And now guess what? The research is in. It is compellingly evident that when we exercise, the harder we work and the longer we do it, get on a treadmill for 45 minutes and just exhaust your heart, actually has damaging effects to your heart. The research is clear. Please go to the article associated with this video and you'll see the references to that research. Long, slow, marathon running exercise actually is damaging. So be careful to know how much exercise is good and how much more is harmful. I did a whole video on nasal breathing exercise, which is an amazing monitor. So you know how much exercise is good for you and how much more is harmful. And there's a whole host of benefits that we did research on in my book, Body, Mind, and Sport, years ago to prove this science. However, when we exercise, the idea currently in the newest research shows that when you do quick bursts of exercise and recover, magical things happen to you when you exercise. There's a training technique developed by a doctor named Irv Dardick who called it heart rate variability training. So if you are looking for your maximum heart rate, you take 220 minus your age is your maximum heart rate. So I'm 53 years old, so my maximum heart rate is 220 minus my age, 53, which is 166 beats per minute. That's as high as my heart rate is allowed to go. When I was 20, I could go to 200, which means every year my ability for my heart rate to go up is getting less and less and less. That's an indicator of that we're aging. Now, the resting heart rate as we age goes up and up and up. So the high rate goes down and the low rate goes up and we start to basically disappear. And that's how we lose our youthfulness. So if you want to train to be youthful, train to get your heart rate up and then recover so it goes real slow. And this is actually very topical these days. People are writing about it in magazines that when you're exercising, it should be kind of like in the old days, hunter-gatherer days. We were hunting rabbits and we'd see a rabbit, we'd chase after it, and then it would jump in a hole and we would wait and rest and be perfectly still. And it would pop out and we'd chase again and it would pop into a little hole and we'd wait for it to come out and rest. And when we would do that kind of exercise training, the heart rate would go as high as it could go for a short burst and then it would go as low as it could go for the short bursts. So we're actually training for what's called heart rate variability, to get the heart rate to go up as high as it can go and as low as it can go. And that is what we want to train for. And so I'm teaching you in the video, in the article with this, I lay out a very easy 12-minute workout. 12 minutes of about a 2-minute warm-up going really slow, a 1-minute sprint, followed by a 1-minute nasal breathing sprint and a nasal breathing recovery. Do 4 of those sprints with a 2-minute rest, and you have a 12-minute workout that will boost cardiovascular efficiency like nothing else. It works phenomenal. It works for me as I play basketball once a week. You can do it 3 to 4 times a week. That's all you really need. And then supplement that with yoga, a hike, a bike ride, but get your heart rate variability training in and keep that ticker alive and well. Now, many of us have problems. You say, boy, when I exercise, and I hear this all the time, I get pain, my muscles ache, I get injured, so I can't work out. Well, as we are sedentary, the muscles get tight. They lose their blood supply. Without blood supply, the muscles lay down this fibrous tissue which sticks the muscles together. So that when you go out and exercise and use them, they tear and they rip and they inflame and they cause all kinds of problems. We take Advil and NSAIDs and all these kind of things to get rid of the pain. But there is an herb called, an Ayurvedic herb, which is phenomenal. It's called Boswellia, which actually increases the blood supply into the muscle, into the joints. It actually breaks down the scar tissue in the muscle and allows the muscles to slide more effectively, increases blood supply into the muscle and the joint, so you can actually restore the pain-free status, deal with the reason you got painful in the first place, and therefore wean off the product. And I love that about our LifeSpa products, is that the idea is to get on them, get better, and get off of them, so we're not deficient in any particular product or pill or powder. The idea is to use the Boswellia, take 2-3 times a day or 3 twice a day for 6 weeks, and establish the elasticity in your joints, increase your exercise, do your cardiovascular heart rate variability training that I just laid out for you. Start doing that, gradually build up, and wean yourself off the pain-free, and off you go into a pain-free way of beginning to restore exercise and cardiovascular status once again. My name is Dr. John Douillard. Thanks for listening. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.